What's going on, guys, and welcome to Who to Sign For. Now in this series I'm giving you my recommendations on what players to sign for a specific team in career mode. Before we go on, I will say that the signings you'll see aren't designed to be realistic, and the player ratings and potentials of the players may vary depending on what database you're using and how they perform for you during the season. Obviously you don't have to follow all the tips. This is really just a set of guidelines to give you a hand if you're stuck for ideas and want some suggestions on what players you could sign for a certain club. This is mainly aimed at those you out there who may be new to the game. I just need a little bit of advice, or for those you out there who just want a few recommendations on what players to sign for a team that you may be using in career mode this year. So yes, in today's episode of Who to Sign For, guys, we're going to take a look at Tottenham Hotspur, Spurs of North London, and they are a brilliant team to do a career mode with this year. Now, as we know, they just got themselves a new manager. The former Wolves head coach Nuno has taken charge of Tottenham Hotspur Stadium this season. Obviously, it was quite a polarising debate as to what the fans wanted and whether they wanted him or not in the summer. And Spurs, as we know, started the season off really well, but since then, 3 straight defeats in the Premier League. Hopefully, they'll be able to pick it up. And of course, it's been mainly overshadowed, their start to the season, by the Harry Kane saga over the course of the summer window. Of course, for now, he remains a Tottenham Hotspur player. Now, Spurs are a 4.5-star team. They've got a budget of around 75 to 80 million, and their objectives in the first season are quite interesting. Domestically, you've got to finish in the top 4 and also reach the final of the FA Cup. And in the Europa Conference League, the inaugural season of the Europa Conference League, they've been asked to win it by the board. Now, you asked the question, are those 3 objectives doable? Absolutely. But are they easy? Absolutely not. Finishing in the top 4 is going to be hard to do. As we know in the Premier League, the traditional, if you will, Big Six. Spurs are part of that alongside Arsenal, and then you've got Chelsea, Liverpool, and the Manchester clubs, City and United as well. But then, of course, there are clubs that have been on the rise. You saw last season Leicester and West Ham both finishing in Europa League places as Spurs finished in 7th. So to finish in the top 4, let alone the top 6, is going to be difficult to do for this Spurs side. It is doable, but it's difficult. And as for the Cups, reaching the FA Cup final and winning the Europa Conference League in the first season of the competition, those are pretty tricky objectives. Again, they're doable, but it is a challenge. And that's why I think Spurs would be a great team to do in this year's career mode. It's a challenge right from the very first season. It's got a decent base to it, this Spurs team. There's quite a decent lot of young players in this side, including Oliver Skipp. Definitely a really good young talent. Scarlett, their young striker as well. Possibly long-term successor to Harry Kane. Quite a few players out on loan who got some good potential as well, such as, of course, Troy Parrott on loan at MK Dons. But it is a team in transition. It's a team with a new manager since Mauricio Pochettino. Of course, they've had Jose Mourinho, then he was sacked last season in very debatable circumstances, many people wondering why that was, right before the EFL Cup final, Ryan Mason taking interim charge. Now that Nuno's come in, it's a team in transition. It's a team looking to find their identity and find some stability and progress forward and get back into Europe's big competition. So now for Spurs, they've got a lot of players that deals are coming at the end of the year. Well, I say a lot, most of which are currently out on loan right now, but a few players deals are coming at the end of the year. There's only one player I recommend giving a contract to. Whilst the 4 players I showed you there have some okay potential, there's only one with good potential, if you will, which is 80 plus. That's Fagan Walcott. He looks like a pretty decent centre half and worth keeping for the future. And as for players that I'd sell with Spurs, I'll be honest here, there's only really one player that I would actively put on a transfer list, possibly 2, but it's up to you. But the one player that I'd definitely to shift on is Matt Doherty. Obviously now he can link up with his former manager Nuno in real life, but the Irish right back is 29 years old. Tanganga is a fantastic young fullback of Spurs, though obviously he can play centre back as well. And of course Emerson coming in means that Doherty is probably going to be your first choice, as you'll most likely prioritise Tanganga with the good potential he has. So Doherty, I would look to move on in the summer transfer window. You can get around 14 to 15 million for the Irish international. We've got just bang in the middle of that, 14.5 mil, sold into Roma. And again, at 78 overall, there's nothing wrong with it, guys. A decent right back and a good stand for Emerson. But personally speaking, I'd look to buy a new one. You got one in Emerson regardless, and you got a decent youngster in Tanganga as well. But as for new signings with Spurs, where would I invest that 75 to 80 million pounds? Well, to me, it's all about bolstering the back line. Going forward, you're going to score a lot of goals. You've got one of the best strikers in Premier League history in Harry Kane, who remains a Spurs player for now. Heung-min Son on the left is just a wonderful player, so fabulous, and a brilliant inside forward to cut inside and shoot with the South Korean. You got either Lucas on the right or perhaps Bergwijn if you want. You're going to score goals going forward, there's no doubt about that. But the back line, there are a couple of positions I'd look to strengthen. One is centre-back and one is right-back. I'd say everyone's on the short list for the centre-half role. There are quite a few that would be really good for the team. Personally speaking, I think Jules Koundé at Sevilla would be the best. Presnel Kimpembe, another really good option. But if you can get this guy and you can't get Jules, I'd recommend this as your second choice. That's Joe Gomez of Liverpool. You can get him for around 40 to 50 million pounds. I think it was 47.5 we paid for Joe Gomez, but the Liverpool and former Charlton defender is fantastic. He spent time playing right back. He definitely can play there, but as a centre half, this guy is ideal for this Spurs team. He's absolutely rapid. His defensive stats are superb. He's 6'2". He's got some really decent strength and aggression. And if you put him on the stopper development plan as well, that will train up the stamina and the jumping and the defensive work rate to high as well. That will make him a commander in this back four. He'll come in and replace Davinson Sanchez. He's a year younger, but Joe Gomez has 88 potential, and with dynamic potential, game time and morale as well, there's no reason why you can't get this guy to 90 overall. So yeah, personally, my number one recommendation would be Jules from Sevilla, but if you can't get him, Joe Gomez is an ideal second choice. And with him being English as well, it's quite cool to get a player that plays the same nationality as the club. But as for a right back, again, I would recommend signing a new one. You saw us reject a bid there for Tanganga. Now, he does have really good potential, but his starting overall isn't the highest. You probably want someone to come in and compete with Emerson for the first choice right back role right to begin with. 4 names on the shortlist here: Mukiele, Lima, Mazraoui and Baku as well. Now, I'll be honest here, I'm a massive fan of Conrad Lima of RB Leipzig. Huge fan of the guy. He's so versatile and his work rate is just phenomenal. He's just run for days, this guy. Absolutely love watching him play. Such an energetic team player. Mazraoui will probably be the cheapest out of the lot from Ajax, as he has his deal up coming the end of the year, so you can probably get him for valuation. But as he moved on in this transfer window in the game, I also had to go for someone else instead. Not Lema from RB Leipzig, but Mukiele instead. Now this guy is a natural right wing back / right back, unlike Conrad Lema, who'd have to position change from holding mid to right back. But this guy is just as good. He's 81 overall and just 23 years old, 6'2" with medium high work rates. He's pretty quick with 82 sprint speed and not bad going forward with the early crosser trait as well. But this guy, to me, with the medium high work rates, again, the very good strength and defensive stats is where he excels. You could definitely retrain this guy to play centre back if you wanted to, but I think personally, watching him for RB Leipzig, he tends to excel when out on the flank and out on the right hand side. So it's good to have the versatility. Once again, having a guy that can play right back and centre back and further up the pitch as well in midfield. But as a right back, I think this guy, that's where this guy excels. I'd definitely recommend bringing him in as right back here at Spurs, taking out Emerson, dropping him to the bench, and having Mukiele as your starting right back in this team. I'd also change him from a right wing back to a primary right back as well. It'll only take 2 weeks to do that, and then put him on a development plan to capitalise on the high potential he's got, which is 85. Now, if you were going to sell another player, I only put Matt Doherty on the transfer list, but there is someone else I would recommend selling if you want to do so, and that's Ben Davies, of course, the former Swansea left back that's been at Spurs for many years now. You can get him, you can sell him for around 16 million, which is what we did as we sold him to RB Leipzig. And the Welsh international is more than good enough as a backup left back in this team for Sergio Reguilon. But personally speaking, you don't really need him, because like in the right back role, whilst we sold Matt Doherty, I talked about Tanganga being a really good young right back prospect for the future. You've also got Ryan Sessegnon in this Spurs team, and he's got 84 potential. So whilst he can be very effective on the offensive end as a left back, he's more than good enough as an understudy for the Spaniard. So yeah, like with Tanganga being right back, that's why you can sell Doherty. With Sessegnon being a left back as well with Spurs, a young player to build for the future and develop for the future, that's where you can afford to sell Ben Davies if you wish to do so. So yeah, personally speaking, I'd keep Sessegnon and I'd keep Tanganga, but I'd sell the older two fullbacks in Doherty and also Ben Davies as well. Now, I had to show you this. We had a massive bid for Harry Kane in this save. It came about a week before the season started, 131.2 mil, but had to turn it down, of course. It's up to you what you want to do with Harry Kane in the save. Like, if you want to sell him, as you see the season ticket money get allocated to our budget there on the back of the Ben Davies sale too, we got around 32 to 34 mil. It's up to you what you want to do with Harry Kane. Like, if you want to sell him and try and, you know, bring Spurs into a new era, if you will, someone else to lead the line, you can get around 170 to 180 million for Kane if you're lucky in the game, and that'll give you enough money to probably replace him with Erling Haaland. He would be the natural choice, but to me, I decided to keep him here. He's still a Spurs player in the the game and in real life, so I decided to keep him here. But again, it's up to you what you want to do. If you want to cash in on the 28-year-old, again, get around 150 to 170, 180 million. That's probably what you can get from a club like Manchester City, but it's up to you. If you want to sell him, bring Spurs into a new era, replace him, that's up to you. But 90 overall, one of the best strikers in the game, one of the best strikers in the world. Never mind a poor start to the season. I personally would recommend keeping him here. But as for a new signing with Spurs, again, we had £33 million remaining in the budget after season ticket money got allocated. I would recommend bringing this guy back. Now, Noni Majuk, I've mentioned before, if you haven't seen this guy play for PSV in the Netherlands, watch some YouTube highlights of this guy. He has just got such natural charisma and flair. He's a joy to watch with the ball at his feet. Now, he's an inside forward on the right, but he can play directly through the middle as a backup for Harry Kane. It will take him around 80 to 81 weeks to transition him from a right midfielder to a striker if you want to play him as a natural out-and-out striker, or you can have him stepping in from the right to shoot on the left as he is a left-footed player. Really, the choice is yours, but I definitely recommend bringing him back because he was on the books of Spurs before he moved over to the Netherlands. He was our final signing. He's got 88 potential, so definitely one of my favourite young players to buy in the game. So in the end, we signed 3 players for 111.5 mil, 2 going straight in the starting 11 in Mukiele and Joe Gomez, but Majuk coming off the bench as well. The impact's going to be perfect to run at tired legs in this Spurs team, and 2 players getting sold for 30.5 mil means we had a net loss of 81 million in the first season. But again, with this Spurs team, it does need to transition. It's got some good young talent already though. I don't think you need to make major changes in the first season, just a little few changes here and there, bring in some younger players and some first team quality as well, and you'll have the best chance possible at achieving those strong objectives set out to you by the board at the start of the season. So as always, with simulate the end of the season, see how Spurs got on, and as you could see, we reached the Europa Conference League final in the first season, but it ended in tears. 1-0 loss to Roma, so back-to-back final losses for Spurs in consecutive seasons after their EFL Cup final loss to Man City last season. But when I talk about heartbreak, well, this is heartbreak. So basically, as we reached the end of the simulation, I saw that Spurs did achieve their league objective of finishing in the top 4, but they only missed out on the title by a single point. Yes, Pep Guardiola retaining it, 81 points on the board, Spurs runners up with 80. How heartbreaking is that? So it is a top 4 finish. That's what the board wanted, but it was so close to being their first ever Premier League title. Just couldn't get over the hurdle there, finishing a point behind the eventual winners, Manchester City. Real briefly, Harry Kane's season for Spurs, you might wonder how he got on. 15 goals this season in the Premier League, so quite a low return by Harry Kane standards, but it turned out in this save, as you can see, he was more a support striker. He was a runner-up in the assist title, 11 assists, 1 behind Ben Chilwell's 12. But as for the other competitions with Spurs, well, when I talk about heartbreak, I kind of mean it. In the EFL Cup this year, reaching the semi-final before being comprehensively beaten by the winners, Liverpool, over 2 legs. In the FA Cup, Liverpool won that to complete a domestic cup double, and they were semi-finalists once again, losing to Manchester United. So 2 straight semi-final appearances in domestic cups in England, losing them both. And again, as we know, for the Europa Conference League, runners up to Roma in the inaugural season, going all the way to reach the final, then losing it to the Italians. So it was a really bittersweet season for Spurs. Is that the best way to put it? Probably not. But in the end, we achieved our league objective. We finished in the top 4. We got a runners-up position, and we're back in the Champions League next year. But in the domestic cups, we didn't reach the final in the FA Cup. We were semi-finalists, just like in the EFL Cup. And in the Europa Conference League, asked to win it, we reached the final. So you have to ask the question, and I'm going to ask you guys this question: was this a season of success or failure for Spurs? To me, it's one of those campaigns when I don't think it's either. I don't think it's a success and I don't think it's a failure. It is another trophy this season, yes, but runners-up in the Premier League, runners-up in the Europa Conference League, semi-finalists in both the EFL and FA Cup, and again, back in the Champions League for next season. It's really hard to determine whether this was a season of success or failure for Spurs. Personally, I don't think it was either. I think it was just a alright campaign. It was okay. That's the best way of putting it. It was decent. Not great, not bad, just, pretty decent. Laid the groundwork early in the first season, bringing in those 3 really good young talents there in Gomez, Noni Majuk and Mukiele as well. selling a couple of older players as well, getting their salaries off the books, and you go with so many young players here for Spurs. You've got many years to nurture your talent. What you need to remember with Spurs is, despite being asked to win the Europa Conference League in the first season, they're not a win now team. They're a win in the future team. This is a Spurs team undergoing a major transition. You don't need to win everything in the first season, and this is a Spurs side that, again, is a project and not a one season type of save. They're a fantastic team to use for career mode this year. They've got one of my favourite stadiums. I love the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It looks glorious. Lovely kit. Playing in, again, the Europa Conference League, a new competition set up by UEFA, and again, lots of good young talent, but a team that does need a rebuild as well. Definitely recommend Spurs for a career mode this year. But that will end today's episode of Who to Sign For, guys. Big thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it. If you have enjoyed the transfer tips, then please do drop a like. Most love to you all. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you for the next episode of WTSF very soon.